I recently was divorced and we ended up selling the house, and I figured if I got to start a new life, I don't have to live it in Minnesota. I would love to travel. So selling the house and having some extra money, I just decided, yeah, I'm gonna go look for my life on the road. I have everything I need. You know, I have my house, I have a truck to pull it, and my dog's more than willing to go. So here we are. Hi, I'm Kim Harmson. Welcome to my tiny house. I've kind of named it 2 different names. It's called the dog house because I have a dog, Maisie. She thinks this is her house more than it is mine. The other house is the redo house because I probably had to do everything at least twice on this house when doing it, because learning by yourself, you do it your way first and then you do it the right way. You do work out your bugs, I think, on the road. You know, stuff happens and you deal with it and then you fix it. I have been living on the road for probably since the beginning of June, since it's now the end of August, so a couple months. When I decide to find that perfect place, and it doesn't mean I'm going to quit traveling, it only means that I guess what I'm looking for is maybe an area where I can purchase maybe some property or rent some property. I'd rather purchase some property, set my tiny house there, and then still use my truck and maybe just put a truck camper on it and travel that way then. And I'll just have my house in one spot and won't have to tow the whole thing everywhere. We are in my comfortable spot. This is where we sit and relax. This is Maisie. She's my French bulldog. She's a rescue. This is her favorite spot, of course, is the couch. I call her the white potato because she's just totally a potato lounger. I also had put this bay window in because it gets such a great view outside. I ended up getting a good suggestion of what I could do for my windows because blinds are so expensive and I really wanted blinds of some kind to block out, but I didn't want to block out the light of it. So my sister-in-law, Dolly Krell, says, hey, I get these paper shades at Walmart and you can cut them to size with just a little knife, and they come with these great clips for clipping up to any length you want, and they fit all the time because you trim them yourself. So it's great for little windows, little spaces. I made this closet out of a door I had cut in half and then used it as a closet. A lot of stuff in my tiny house is either reused or I do a lot from the restore. So a lot of reclaimed stuff, reusing is, that's what I loved about this. So this is just a little dresser I bought at an antique place, but the best thing I bought it for was this, is because it drops down to a desk. So I can just sit here and work on my computer, do whatever. It's kind of like my mail center. So that was one of my great finds. And you can find stuff like that once in a while. And when you're building a tiny house and you find stuff like that, you should just buy it if you really love it and then incorporate it into your house. And that's the best thing about building a tiny house by yourself, is because you can buy stuff and then that's how you build around it. Then the next thing I found was this ladder, because it was such a short space that I couldn't build steps long enough to come down on. And so I wanted to find a step stool that I could use because I can use it other places. So what you do is you just take it off out of the rubber stoppers I bolted to the top of the dresser. And so this way I can use it to plug in my TV, my VCR, reach my lights, do my fan, because right now that's hooked up, and then it just sits right back in there just as easy as it came out. So now we're kind of getting into close to the kitchen. So I put in a wood burning stove. It's called the Squirrel, if you didn't notice the squirrel on the side. But it's got a great viewing window and sitting on the couch and being able to watch a fire when I'm going to be somewhere long enough would be fantastic. That's kind of one thing I'm looking forward to. I put it in this spring, so I had one fire in it to make sure I had the piping all right and everything, and that the smoke was going the right way. That's the only fire I've had in it. But yeah, moving on to my countertop area of my kitchen. So this is a toolbox that I ended up buying, and everybody that has come in here said that's like the greatest thing, because you can store so much in it, and it's got great sliding drawers. I keep a lot of supplements, tons of space, but the big drawer on the bottom is so great because that's all my pots and pans, my toaster, my blender, a few other dishes that I couldn't get in cupboards and stuff. It's the greatest storage, and the best thing is when going down the road, it has one lock and it locks all the drawers. Turn the key and you're ready for travel, and it locks it. Totally my counter space. It's all close to my plug-in, so like I say, I can put my blender up here and a few other things, shove them down there when I'm traveling. This also, these magnetic spice things are great, or if you want to use it for something else, they stick all on the bottom and they never fall off. This is also one of my purchases at the Restore. I have so many things from the Restore. But it's just a cupboard, regular cupboard that I hung on the wall, put my TV up here above it, and it's great because it has a lip around it, so my VCR sits right on top, and then when I travel, it just tucks down, it goes nowhere. So another kitchen find at the Restore was this, and I really don't do much cleaning stuff because I'm kind of chemical on that part, so everything's chemical free stuff, but I keep my food in there and some under here, my waters. This countertop with my sink is a hand hammered copper sink, which I love. It's actually a bar size, and because I see so many of these like tiny houses with these farm style sinks, but when you're living off the grid and you can't use a lot of water, it's nice to have something small to wash your dishes in and not have to fill a huge sink, wasting your water. So that's how I do it with a bar size sink. Well, I always wanted this window lower, and it was actually supposed to be that window up there, was supposed to be long and kind of narrow, but right in here. But actually now I'm kind of glad I put the big window in and it's a little bit taller, because it's a window that I can keep open at night and I really don't worry about. Being a woman on the road by yourself, your kind of safety things, you kind of go into safety mode and go, oh, I can't have that, or I don't want to do it that way because it's a safety issue. So this window, I feel like it's so high off the ground that I can keep it open if I want. As you can see, I have my stairs going up into my large loft area, but underneath is my food storage. And then I'm going to eventually connect these. So what this is right now, my charger inverter is underneath here for solar, because I am totally off grid. I do have 2 solar panels, so that's my inverter. I do have a Berkey water thing. When I stay at a place longer, I pull that out, but if I'm not staying real long, I use bottled water for drinking. Everything else is for the sink and shower. I have a full-size, to me, fridge, because I've seen a lot smaller. Freezer on top, packed to the gills, and then a fridge. Has plenty of room for especially just one person. I mean, really, sometimes a little bit over. It is a propane fridge. I can do electric or propane. So I run strictly on propane, mostly off grid. My little stove does run on propane, and it does have a little oven and a little broiler area or warming. I was gonna just put in a countertop one, and then I had a plug-in oven that I really liked, but I figured, if I've got all this, I'm probably not going to be baking a whole lot. So I don't know, I just thought that this made more sense to me. and it was a good deal. I got it for half price because it has a big dent in this side, which you'll never see. My tea shelf, I kind of call it my tea shelf, and those things will ride down the road and they never fall off. This is my utility room. I have a 50-gallon water barrel. I have an outlet on the outside that I put in that goes directly to fill my barrel. I have a tankless hot water heater that runs on the propane. I have just my regular camper pump, water pump, SureFlow coming out. This is my charger controller for my solar. Has my readouts and stuff that I always keep an eye on to make sure everything's charging right. This is my bathing water, my washing dishes. It's just that water. I don't keep it for drinking because you never know sometimes where you're getting your water. And I do filter it before it gets into the barrel, but I still use drinking water, and that's why I have the Berkey. I'm super happy that it all works. Some of my wiring doesn't look real pretty or anything, but you know, hey, it works. I will now take you into the bathroom. So I just have this curtain because I didn't really have time before I left to put indoors, and I kind of like the curtains. They're very versatile, and Maisie can come in anytime she wants. So I have the Composting Toilet, the Nature's Head toilet. That's the one that has the fan that constantly runs. I have the great countertop cupboard that I ended up finding at some women's garage that they went out of the hair business, and they had this, and I turned it into my vanity for my bathroom and put my hand-painted sink in it, which I just love. I get a lot of compliments on this sink. Other than that, I do have a tub and shower that I did put in. It's just a camper-sized tub. You know, you gotta sit in there with your knees up, but it's still a tub, which I still enjoy taking just a bath if I want to once in a while, and I don't try to use a lot of water there either. I do part shower, and then whatever's left from showering, then that's my bath water. Transitioning was pretty easy since I built it myself and I kind of knew where everything, you know, how it worked and where I wanted things as I was building it. Living in here was really no transition. My truck is like, oh my God, it's okay, I gotta change, make sure I get my oil changed, keep an eye on that, keep an eye on my temperature while pulling this. So I think that's people with motorhomes, they kind of have to take that in consideration too, where my truck is separate. It's not as detrimental if my truck breaks down. You know, I can take that into a shop as long as I got somewhere to unhook from this. And usually if you go to the dealership, wherever you're gonna go, they might have room, especially where you can unhook and then your truck gets fixed, where their whole house has to go in. Mine doesn't, so that's one thing I do like about it. A lot of people maybe don't think about. Come on up to the bedroom. This is my large bedroom. I have, I call them half moon windows in. I have a scarf over it right now that I use as a shade, which I like because it still gives me light, but yet privacy. I do have the paper shades on my smaller windows, and they do come up, and I usually get a really nice cross breeze coming through usually. Those times when you get dead air. And then I have this fan that actually just fits right in this window, and I use that, and it works really good to stay cool. If you notice my bedspread, I'm gonna do a little thing. So my daughter designed this, and she's on Redbubble, and you can buy her products right on Redbubble. My storage for my clothing, you want to come around to this side. These were planter boxes that a store that I worked at had to get rid of all their plants. So I took them all with the ones with the wood boxes because they came with these great metal containers in them. And I just flipped them on their side, painted the front, and now they're clothing storage. And I have all my clothes in all of them. Different seasons, different stuff between jeans, shorts, tops, tank tops. Yeah, it's all spread out. So this is my second bedroom, which is a smaller bedroom because of where the door is. So it has a single bed and then just a little bit of floor space. It doesn't have as much as mine because of where I put the door. That's why I built the bed above the doorway, because that was empty space and I didn't have to use this little tiny area putting a bed in and then have no area for people to move around in it or me to store anything. So I hung it above the doorway. It also has a half moon window in it, and right now, as you can see, I have just a few storage things that I keep up here. I put this window in just because it fit here, and I've had this window was out in my shed for like 10 years. And I brought it in. I said, I really want to use this someplace. And I looked up, and here we had already put this window in way before I found this window out in my shed. It does open. I just don't have anything I open it with. I stuff a pillow in there or something. But it does have a blackout paper shade, so people who are up here can have their own little peaceful area. So this is my storage shed that I put on so it can hold my all my propane. So I do have the 4 30-gallon tanks here. I just keep my the rest of my pipe for my wood-burning stove in here that I have to put on once I decide that that's where I'm staying for a while. Leftover compost stuff for your toilets. Just a little shed, enough to keep some stuff you don't want in your house, like the propane tanks for one. I guess what I'm targeting people, like women especially, who are going to be on their own, no matter what age. Don't give up your dreams, especially if you don't think you can build it. I hear so many people say, I could never do that. Well, I did it, so anyone can do it, because I don't have any experience whatsoever in building. You can get people to help. You can get a lot of information off the internet, and you can get lots of advice from people like me who have done it and can give you advice. So keep up that Instagram account at Tiny House Awoken. I'd like to give a shout out to Aaron Buss for the greatest guy in solar ever. He taught me a lot about solar, and so when you're thinking about doing stuff like that, learn how to run it and do that. It's not real easy, but it is totally learnable, and the more you're doing it, the easier it is to be off grid. Thank you.